Hi, I'm John Blackburn, and this is Entertainment Matters. This is a podcast for people who make live entertainment happen. I talk with people from across entertainment and beyond to explore how we think about our work and how we put that thinking into practice. Okay, on this Notes episode, I'm talking about being motivated, inspired by my conversation with Matt Roberts. In his interview, Matt makes the observation that one of the hardest things for performers that he helps to deal with is maintaining motivation. And I'm going to just start by sort of tying this idea of maintaining motivation to another word, which we use quite a lot, which is resilience. And my practical definition for resilience is probably something like the ability to maintain motivation over time and in face of difficult feedback. In fact, it's probably worth defining motivation itself a bit more clearly, isn't it? Motivation is not always excitement. It's not always some raging inferno that you have to light within yourself. Now, you can have that, and it's a really good idea to cultivate that feeling because it's fun and it's useful. But that's not what motivation has to be. It's not the only kind of motivation that you want available to you. An obvious example is if I want a cup of tea and I go and make one, I was motivated to make the cup of tea. Now, there are various feelings that could have led me to getting up and making the cup of tea. All of them were technically motivating. Some of them are positive and sustainable, like enjoying the thought of having a cup of tea and wanting to drink one. That would be motivation towards the joy I'll get from a cup of tea. Also, perhaps being tired and feeling like if I don't have a cup of tea, I won't be able to do the things I want to do in the next couple of hours. That could also be motivating to make a cup of tea. That would be a bit more away from something I don't want, being tired, rather than towards the thing I do want. Anyway, the point is both of those things will get me to stand up and put the kettle on. And neither of those things is like the sort of raging inferno of motivation that you might see in a Hollywood film. Internal states that you can cultivate can make taking meaningful action easier. And the practical test is really simple. Are you taking the actions that you want or need to take when you want or need to take them? If you are, motivation is present in some form. Now, bringing us back to entertainment. Many people in entertainment experience motivation as something that sort of comes and goes. It's something that happens to them. It's something that is either present or absent. And the implication of that, of course, is that motivation is something that lies outside of our control. If it's there, fantastic. If it's not, we struggle. My perspective on that is something a bit different. I think that perhaps motivation, a bit like inspiration, is not something that we simply wait for. Perhaps motivation is something we can learn to connect with deliberately. And of course, that's not an unusual idea for many successful artists, performers, authors, etc. Different kinds of creative people have expressed versions of that sentiment for years. So I'm going to read a little quote here from British novelist W. Somerset Maugham, who said, I wonder if I'm pronouncing that right. He said, "I write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp." And then American painter Chuck Close, he says, "Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work." Now, my interpretation of those two quotes, using my sort of practical earlier definition of motivation, is not that they did something without motivation. It's that they each did something, thought in a certain way, which allowed them to get on with the work. And that process of thinking is what generated the motivation. I really like a story that my drum teacher when I was a kid, Jeff, used to use in a few different ways. So here's the story. There's a sculptor working in the middle of the town square. And every day she shows up with her hammer and chisel and she chips away at the huge block of stone in the middle of the town square. And as she does this, people walk past from the town. Weeks go by, months go by. One day, someone stops and asks her what she's doing. And she says, "A sculpture." The person looks at the stone and says, "Well, it still just looks like a rock." She smiles, the sculptor, and carries on. Months pass, people occasionally stop and ask more questions. They can't see what's happening, the townspeople. So they say, nothing's happening. What's the point? Why are you bothering? Do you think this is going to work? Every day, all the townspeople see is the woman hitting a rock. Every day, the sculptor, she sees the sculpture that she's creating. She knows what it's going to become. Importantly, she knows why she's making it. She knows how wonderful it will be when it's finished. And perhaps most importantly, she loves the activity of being an artist, of sculpting. Now, I'll come back to that story shortly, but to return again quickly to entertainment, why is motivation such a big, important, and difficult thing to maintain in entertainment? Unfortunately, what a lot of people do, what a lot of people have been taught to and have learned to do, is we pin our motivation on this like one sort of future event. We have in our minds this idea, that this belief that if we sort of struggle enough, there will be one giant opportunity that will arrive and it will remove every challenge from our life. That kind of plan, that sort of pinning everything on one life-changing opportunity, is a very fragile plan. I think hope is useful. Hope is positive. We want hope. But if hope in one future opportunity is the only thing generating motivation, that motivation becomes fragile. And entertainment professionals particularly don't have anyone else whose job it is necessarily to help them access more motivation, to feel more motivated. They don't have anyone necessarily to help develop their ability to connect to those sort of powerful internal resources. Most people working in entertainment are freelance. We don't really have a boss who necessarily sees it as their responsibility to kind of look after and develop us. Now, if you're an employee within a larger company, you might have a manager who hopefully coaches, wink, and encourages you. A sports person or an athlete, for example, will definitely have a coach, second wink. But the vast majority of entertainment professionals are both the performer and the person responsible for managing the performer. They are the goose that lays the golden eggs and the farmer who looks after the goose. Part of our responsibility to ourselves in that managing or farmer role might be learning how to connect with useful states when they are needed. Or as I often refer to it, learning how to push our own buttons. And those buttons or states include the state of motivation. The reason that I like that story about the sculptor in the town square is that I believe that we all have both of the main characters, if you like, in that story sort of within us. We have the townspeople thoughts, which is the can't see any results. What's the point? This isn't working. We also, of course, have the sculptor person. The sculptor is thinking about the end result, keeps that in mind, and is motivated by the beauty and the power of the end result. They can also be motivated by what got them into being an artist, into sculpture in the first place, the love of the craft, the love of seeing people enjoy something that we have created. So part of us is the sculptor, and part of us is the person walking through the square asking what's the point. And I think that leads us to a couple of possible ways that we might connect with motivation more strongly. First of all, connecting to a meaningful future outcome. What will it be like when it's achieved? What will it feel like? What else will become possible? That future, what is it that you're moving towards? And I suppose that you want a few layers of those. You want not only the potential for the life-changing opportunity that someone else gives you, but you also want some kind of a goal where you are in complete control of it. It's completely down to you. You want to be able to draw motivation and charge for something that you can really take full responsibility for, rather than something that you are simply involved with. And that leads me to the second kind of motivation from our friend, the sculptor. The thing that actually you definitely have access to all the time. You can connect with why you started doing what you do in entertainment in the first place. Not the intellectual explanation, but the actual reason, the excitement, the challenge, the whatever it was that got you to, if you're a performer, get up on stage the first time. Importantly, whatever it was that got you to do it a second time, the love for the craft itself. If you're a musician and what you got you into playing music and then kind of pulled you towards becoming a professional was that you really love playing the bass. Connect with that thing that you actually love. Use that to give you some motivation. No one else can take that away from you or can under or over promise on that front. That thing was true then, and it can be true now. So to wrap this one up, you can actually connect with feeling motivated whenever you want. And it's a great idea to learn how to do that and to notice how you might already do it in subtle ways. So learn how to create the, if you like, the raging inferno kind of motivation, and also notice the kinds of ways, for example, that you might talk to yourself when you're motivated to do something simple, like for me, the cup of tea. I have actually, I mean, this is part of training that I've done, but I actually figured out how I talk to myself when I positively wanted and then successfully made a cup of tea. And I actually used that same way of talking to myself to get myself to do like admin tasks, which up until that point, I felt quite hard to motivate myself to do. It turns out motivation was a fairly simple little procedure I went through in my own head. If you learn how to connect with your own motivation on purpose, you will likely take more of the actions that you want to take, and you will likely enjoy the whole process more. You'll likely spend less of your career waiting for motivation to magically arrive from somewhere else, mainly to discover that it in fact does not. And if you're struggling with motivation in a given moment, it might be worth noticing which voice or character we're listening to. Are we listening to the sculptor or the townsperson? Thanks for listening, and thanks for whatever you do to make live entertainment happen. If you'd like to be notified when there's a new episode and stay up to date with the podcast, you can sign up for the Entertainment Matters Cue Sheet at the link in the description. Have a great show.